Welcome to TradeTheMBI.com. This is John. This report is for Monday the 28th. And again, it's really interesting. We're hearing just so much about how this market should drop 1,000 points, 5% corrections. Yet this is not giving us that reading at this particular point, even from a daily standpoint. Fine, we might see a little more weakness here as we've had short-term buyers fading on the DOC, but we've had rising shakeout into this move. We've also had a crossover. We've broken into a new zone for the red. That's a momentum play. Even if we're not holding the highs or anything, we weren't looking for that anyway. We were just looking for a stability move, given the fact that we've still had negative shakeout. We hadn't broken back to positive, so we weren't expecting it to break out. But again, it's not the end of the world based on what this chart looks like. Now, we'd like to see the green overtake, which would be midterm buyers overtake long-term, and the red, but we'd also like to see the orange break out above cyan to, actually create a move. But that being said, there's still plenty of action within the day. We're getting better ranges, but not the end of the world, so to speak. NASDAQ was a little bit weaker, and also a little bit different in the shakeout. So we're starting to get a little disparity between them. We didn't see the crossover here of the midterm buyers in the same way, and nor did we get an improvement from the long-term buyers on the DOC here breaking out. And we already have that softer crossover. So that crossover already is why you saw more weakness on the NASDAQ than you did from the S&P. Is it horrible? Nah, we're getting close to a point where it could be significant enough, and that's a divergence between the two. Now, maybe the S&P needs to catch up on Monday and start fading a little bit more to match this weakness, or we got to see the NASDAQ turn around a bit and have a little more life to it. Either way, the euro taking it through the roof. Bizarre comments from Yellen, basically saying, please fire me, as she comes out against the president and his policies completely in a forward comments, which is very unusual and potentially counterproductive. So we can see that the U.S. Fed isn't going to be against the administration and or any of the policies that they're trying to enact. So that is a clear in your face. And that rallied the euro big time now, way over the edge for the euro. And that should bolster the S&P, which is why you probably saw it hold up better than the NASDAQ. But just strange to see that kind of commentary coming from Fed. Crazy, really. It also indicates that no hawkishness, which is what people were trying to guess to whether or not there would be. And so that means rates aren't going to move. And, well, that's allowing for these ridiculous numbers for treasuries, just insane. And oil, just holding on. Nothing special there. Again, what we're looking for is increase in demand to give us the indication that we're going to see large improvement in economic growth. And gold, just a little bit of a wild gyration here, just to shake some people out. Wasn't a little bit of a short mode of DOC spread at the same time. You do have a reset of long-term buyers on this one, so that's why I would be expecting the ABM green to support in that given spot. But a little bit of a shake up there, just to kind of clear out some stops for people, and I think that was very effective. And also, this did express some weakness within that given play from a daily standpoint. I don't suspect it to last because gold looks pretty darn strong. I went over this in detail on the Skype chat. We had that run from the other day that was looking to this move right here, and given what we were seeing with the cyan under red is always bullish in this particular case, but what I was pointing to was the fact that we had rising lows, which usually indicates return to the low, and in this case rising highs at the same time. So with both of them rising, you mostly get continuation, and that's exactly what we ended up with, was continuation right there until we flattened out. It wasn't until we got over here that we ended up with you had a DOC spread back here from before that corresponded to a short signal, and that was right about there. Playing that straight up, you could take it. What you didn't have, though, was the spike above for the 13. So then, again, when it spidered really quick, that's usually very negative at that particular point. At that spot, you're right about here, and in the next bar, you end up having your move of the orange preparing to jump through and break over the plus 13, which it does right at the beginning of that, which is also a break of the ABM gold at this particular point, and just pretty much caved from that spot right there. Now, in this particular case, it's flat, and the fib lines weren't expecting anything more than a 50% retrace. I actually did a little bit further than that, almost at the 23%, but not quite, and maintained itself in a short signal because it didn't break down below and create a new setup stop. But then what happens is right here you end up with the low rising on flat high. That should call for a low, but you got to wait for an actual signal. The first signal came in right about here as the steel dips below the cyan, and you actually had orange even outside the range that particular point, so there was no longer a continuation. It fought back pretty immediately on that situation, but it did the exact same thing a little bit further over here. At the same time, you also had green break down below red at that particular point. It done the same thing right here as well. So whether you took the short there, faced a little bit of heat, whether you were short from the beginning and just held on to it, what I did was I took a little cover from the break below the 50%. I usually lower the stop at that particular point, and then when it came back above it, then it's like, okay, you're caught on that one, and that was a portion of profit there. But once we ended up with this secondary one right here, it re-entered, and then even added a little the secondary one when it crossed over, and then sure enough it just took us right back to the new low, which was rising. So that rising low with the flat high, expecting the return back to low, and the low in this case rose all the way up to here. Still was worth 7+ points, so nothing to complain about from that aspect of it. But worth noting, I mean, this is where utilizing some of that information can come in handy, particularly when you're not getting dramatic moves. The only clear dramatic short portion was when the orange broke above plus 13.5 and then started to break down, going from there. And though you weren't expecting a big range move, because 50% retrace on that was more than enough to justify the fact that we were just in a narrow kind of range. So all in all, good stuff. Should have a couple of updates with the new indicators that are going to be coming out and for next month, and we should finish out the month pretty strong with I think some money probably coming into it right at the end, so we'll have to see if that plays itself out. But there's definitely been a lot of calls for excessive weakness, and I always get leery of that when there's really no justification unless we see some kind of new numbers that suggest there's been some kind of slowdown. Now, of course, with the hurricane situation and that how oil plays out with that, and whether there's major impact for any length of time, those are a little bit of unknowns, and we'll have to see how that develops. But it could actually spark some additional movement there with reconstruction and everything else. So we'll just have to follow what the readings give us on that at this particular point. Could be still a little bit of softness going into the open there, but I think since it probably wasn't the worst that could have been from a disaster standpoint, that may see a little bit of support going there. So, as always, though, look for me on that Skype chat, and we'll keep putting up detailed information. Trade well.